Ministries. Dr. Jeff Myers will be with us at 10:45, so in about 40 minutes, to discuss his new book, a short book, but I think it's going to be very helpful for people to discuss the topic of his book, Should Christians Support Israel? Seeking a Biblical Worldview in an Impossible Situation. Well, he's got that right. It's a very, very tough situation over there in the Middle East. So Dr. Jeff Myers will be on with us. He's been on countless times on today's issues. Fred, there was something that I wanted to bring up here at the top of the show. Something, I can't remember what it was. Did something big happen this weekend?
Yes, and I think it was predicted when we headed into the weekend on Friday. There were reports that President Joe Biden would exit the race for a second term. And lo and behold, shortly after I got out of church yesterday morning, that news broke that it was happening. But you know, it's heading in all last week. You know, we had the Republican convention going on, but we had the backdrop, and behind that, there were stories every day. Nancy Pelosi calling President Biden. You know, we want the president to make the decision himself whether he should get out. Now, and there was a declining enthusiasm amongst Democrats.
Right.
In the background is the guy I call the puppet master, Barack Obama, who ever since that, remember the fundraiser in Las Vegas or Los Angeles back 3-4 weeks ago, and the image coming out of there of Obama putting his hand on the back of Joe Biden
to guide
him off the stage. Listen, when we say a picture says 1,000 words, that said so much.
Yeah.
Because here, Joe, you need help.
Yes.
You're frail. Let me help you off the stage. And here we are. It's really, really interesting. You know, you don't have a lot of public statements coming from Barack Obama, but you know, in the background, David Axelrod, who worked in that administration, also out there. The seeds had been planted.
Chuck Schumer,
all of those. And more, I think at the count was close to 30 on Friday, Democrats openly saying, Adam Schiff and others, openly saying, you know, the numbers just aren't there. Just reading a little bit of the background on the weekend, we know that President Biden is recovering from COVID.
Yes.
But he called in a couple of his big advisors, and they showed him internal polling, party polling, showing him there was no way he could win.
Well, it's not only that, but that if he stayed in the race, he would probably hurt the Democratic Party down ballot.
Yes.
So there were real concerns that they could lose the House and the Senate, or at least not gain any of those. They have a slim hold on the Senate. But also the money was drying up.
The money was drying up.
People were not giving to his campaign.
Well, you had the big Hollywood names who write checks for millions of dollars.
Right.
And they were encouraging George Clooney. What was it, New York Times or Washington Post? Who wrote the editorial saying, you know, Biden has to go. Everything was working against him. I think Joe Biden, up to last Friday, wanted to stay in there. He wanted a second term.
Right.
We've talked about his wife, Jill. She wanted a second term. You know, she was out there after the poor performance in the debate. So you had the money, you had internal Democrats, and you had the mainstream media.
Yes.
They turned against him.
Yeah, and you know, the thing is, in Washington, D.C. right now, I guess, I don't know if it's still going on, Chris, but Ken Cheadle, the director of the Secret Service, was before was it House or Senate hearing?
It's a House hearing.
House hearing. Mm-hmm. Okay, so last week all the oxygen got sucked out of the room as everyone was discussing the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. That's when she is trying to explain how her department fouled up so badly in protecting the former president. But that's the story we're going to have to put off a little bit because we're talking.
There's so much.
Talking, and everyone's going to be talking about Joe Biden. Now, Chris, a lot to unpack here. My understanding is Joe Biden, many of the people on his own campaign staff did not know about his decision until they read about it on X.
Yeah. What a way to find out that your boss is not going to run for re-election, which he has promised. And he had been saying going into the weekend, hey, I'm staying. On Friday, it was like, how in the world are we going to do a weekend update podcast covering this and the cloud hanging over the air? On Friday, Biden said, I'm going to be back out on the campaign trail on next week.
Yeah.
Which led people to believe, okay, he's obviously overcome COVID. He's going to head back from Delaware at some point. But then we kind of had it in the back of our mind that maybe on Sunday he would announce.
There were predictions.
Yeah, there were predictions that he would step aside. I, of course, had said it's going to happen at 4:30 on a Friday when we're all about to walk out the door. So I was proven wrong. But Biden did formally announce that he was going to exit the campaign here. He's still going to be president, America, until January of next year, unless somebody says otherwise. I'll get to that in a second.
Well, let me just say, yeah, we think he's going to be president. He's assuring everyone he's going to, fill out the rest of his term, but he was assuring everyone he was going to be back on the campaign trail this week, too.
So we have heard a lot. Yeah, we have heard a lot from Joe Biden, which is the understatement of the century. And we heard a lot from him on this situation.
By the way, I do want to make note of the fact, and I did see this on X yesterday, that I don't know whether this is irony or what, but Joe Biden announced that he was not going to seek the nomination of the Democratic Party on National Ice Cream Day.
Of all days.
Of all days.
President Vanilla Ice Cream Cone.
Yeah.
Said he was going to not run for re-election on National Ice Cream Day.
All right, go ahead.
So let's begin with this. It's a montage of people in media who just a few days ago were talking about how Biden clearly wasn't mentally fit. His health was in bad shape. He has COVID. He had a poor debate against Trump. All these people that in the last week to 3 weeks have been saying he needs to go. They became very emotional. Even some people were to the point of tears on television talking about Biden and his departure. Clip 1.
Then you just cry. Because this is somebody that you love. This is somebody that you care about. This is somebody who was there for you. This is somebody, you wouldn't be here without him. And you have to take something from him.
Joe Biden is grounded. He's grounded in his faith, in his family, and in our state. Excuse me. I'm sorry. This was a very difficult decision.
There was very little indication from people close to him and many people in the campaign that this was what was about to happen.
What a patriot. What an act of selfless devotion to your country.
I have a list of all the voices you just heard. It was Van Jones, who was holding back tears. Chris Coon, also holding back tears, if not actually weeping at that point. Jen Psaki was the other, and then Rachel Maddow there at the very end.
Well, Fred, listen, Joe Biden was in politics for the Democratic Party for 50 years.
Longer than I've been alive.
Okay, so I don't fault people for feeling bad at this moment. It is sad that he was derailed by what is apparently, I don't know if it's officially going to be said as dementia or maybe Parkinson's or some sort of neurological disorder. Okay, I certainly don't fault people for feeling badly for him. Okay, the problem is all these people talking about how he's this, he's that, we love him. But really, he was knifed in the back by his own party.
Yes.
First of all, throughout the last 3.5 years, almost 4 years, he was clearly losing his mental capacity to do the job. Mm-hmm. And they all continued to defend him and claim that the emperor has clothes when they knew that he wasn't. So there is a sense in which all these people are the Roman senators who knifed Julius Caesar and then had nothing but good to say about him after he was dead. Yeah. Because they used him. Now, he used his party too. It seems like his wife, Jill Biden, used him to stay in power. They all used him and got rid of him when they didn't think he could be a stepping stone to victory in November. And so there's a sense when these are just kind of crocodile tears.
Yeah, I think, you know, if we go back several months, Jill Biden wanted a second term. They wanted a second term. In the background, what we didn't see publicly was a whole lot of very powerful Democrats. We don't want Joe.
Right.
We had the mainstream media who continued to support Joe Biden. And, you know, Donald Trump was their demon. And they were still strongly against. And then came that debate on the 27th of June. That gave the Democrats, that gave the media an open door to say, okay, it's time for him to go.
Because it was undeniable.
It was undeniable. So they piled on. The stories from the Associated Press up to last Friday were all about that deplorable performance by Joe Biden.
Right.
All right. Having watched the AP celebrate Joe Biden for 3-4 years, and then all of a sudden after that debate, they turned against him. You knew the New York Times turned against him. The Washington Post turned against him. You knew that, you know, his existence on the ballot had a shelf life. And so when the COVID, and some people, you know, conspiracy theory, some people say he doesn't have COVID.
Right.
This was...
Who knows?
Yeah.
The lying coming out of the administration
Yes.
and the Democratic Party is endless.
Yes.
Who knows?
I'm very anxious to see what Karine Jean-Pierre says today.
Yes.
If they have a briefing at the White House, because she's been out there. She talked about you guys. You're just creating snippets in video that make them look bad.
She said it was false. It was fake.
It was
fake video, a lot of this stuff.